Luthier struck a chord with people last year when it came out, and it's fast becoming one of my favourite games. So today, I've set up a solo game, and I'm going to show you the gameplay. So here I am, and I've completed most of the board setup. I've chosen to play Stradivari, and you'll see that I get one animal and one wooden resource, but no money or metal. I do get to start one space up on the crafting track though, which allows me to rough 2 instruments with 1 action. I also get to start with an extra instrument card, chosen from 3, and I've chosen Pompadour as my starting patron, as she matches the stringed instruments I've picked up, so I'm hoping I can satisfy her before her patience runs out. And over on this side of the table, I have the workbench for the solo opponents. I'm playing against the Prague Guild, who have a preference for Baroque-era music and keys and percussion instruments. They also start with a high priority on the patron, performance and repair actions, and they're going to be looking to build a double bass for Chopin. The solo player always starts with a matching patron and preferred instrument, and the solo actions will be controlled by this deck of cards. There's 1 card in here for each action space, and these cards will level up over the course of the game. Let's give them a good shuffle. And while I start with my 1, 3, and 5 strength workers, the solo automa starts with their 1, 2, and 3 workers, but these will be modified by the values in their priority box here. As for all 2-player games, I've blocked off some spaces in the orchestra with the dummy player colour, and blocked off some of the public award spaces too. So, round 1, I get to go first. Although Stradivari didn't get me any money to begin with, placing Pompadour here got me 4, and moving her patience cube along gets me another 6, so I'm okay for money. Looking at the board, there's no matching performance or repair that I can do for Pompadour, so I might have to build her 3 instruments if I want to complete this card quickly. I can see a serpent in the guild in the free spot, and that's a rare instrument too, which will help with the public awards. I think I'm going to have to use my best worker though to make sure I get it. For the guild, we draw the top card of their deck, and then take a random one of their workers and place it on the space. We'll resolve them later. Now, although I can rough 2 instruments in one go, I really think I want to rough and finish this violin. It's going to be quite cheap to do, and it gets me in a space early in the orchestra. And if I can get this completed this turn, that will reset the patience cube before Pompadour. So I think that's what I'm going to do with my remaining 2 workers. The guild want to go to the balcony for their second action, so I'll stick a worker over there. And I'll be able to pick up the wood to finish off this violin, so I'm going to stick my last worker over there. and the guild is going to send their last worker to pick up an instrument. So I'm quite happy I sent my number 5 over there. In a multiplayer game, we would just move now straight into resolving the board spaces. But in the solo game, we first reorder the guild's action cards so that they're in the order of the highest priority and then top to bottom for ties. Now that all the workers have been placed, let's resolve them. I'm choosing to resolve the guild first to see if I get the serpent, but also because I want the bonus material for placing a 4 or higher worker, as I'll use that wood for my violin. Here we can see that I have the high strength worker, and the guild's 3 isn't modified by their priority box. So I'm going to take the serpent into my hand. I could have placed it straight onto my workbench, but I don't have the space there right now. The guild will then choose an instrument in their priority order stated on their card, as their only patron has already got an instrument assigned to them. In this case, it's going to be this harpsichord, as it's a keys and percussion instrument, and we're just going to place it above their workbench until we can find a patron who wants it. Once we're done with the guild's action, we put the guild's worker on top of the relevant action card for later. Now the guild will resolve their highest priority action, and this will be a repair. The level 1 action here will only repair 2-point instruments, and will want to match a patron's secondary requirement if it can. At level 2 and above, it will start to look through the deck, but at level 1, it will only consider the cards on display. So in this instance, it can only repair the 2-point card, so it will do so. Now we need to place the repair token in the orchestra, and for this we need to consider the type of instrument it was, in this case a strings instrument, and then place it in such a way that it benefits the guild. They'll firstly look to see if they can take a first chair in an empty space, then if they can steal a first chair by having a majority of non-instrument tokens, otherwise they'll go wherever there's the fewest tokens. Ties are broken by their guild, so as this guild prefers Baroque to Romantic, the token will go on the loot space. And then of course we need to give them 2 points. Now we return their worker to their workbench, and as they don't have a patron that needs this kind of repair, we can just discard the card. Next, I'm going to resolve my roughing action, and I'm going to pay 1 animal and 1 wood to move this violin over to the finishing side of my workbench. Next, the guild is going to resolve their balcony action. At level 1, all this is going to do is to rearrange the player order, but as this action levels up, they'll start claiming public awards. We'll use one of these tokens as a reminder to change the player order at the end of the turn and return the number 1 worker to the workbench. Next, before my final action to finish my violin, and because I forgot to pick up my wood when I went to the guild earlier in the turn, I'm going to the marketplace to buy some extra wood. As the guild has taken all of its actions by this point, I can just move straight on to finishing my violin now. So I can remove my worker from the space, pay the 1 wood, and then place my instrument token in the orchestra. I get to claim the first chair and push the red token out of the way, and I get to take the benefit of that base in the orchestra. And let's not forget my 2 points. And after this, as this stringed instrument is a primary requirement for my patron, I can flip the card and tuck it behind her. And in completing one of her requirements, I can now set her patience scoop back to the start of the track. When you're playing solo against a guild, there's an extra end of round cleanup step to go through. Firstly, reduce any priorities based on the backward arrows at the bottom of each of the action cards, then increase the priorities based on the forward arrows. Then finally, depending on whether the workers used are higher than stated in the bottom right corner of the card, we'll also need to level them up by swapping them for the next card of its type. Here we're going to need to do this for the repair and instrument actions. Then we can shuffle the deck and the worker tokens for the next round. At the end of each round, we need to then discard all the cards from tier 1 in each of the areas on the board, and then fill the spaces from the decks. Reveal the next market card and reset the market cards. Update the turn order track if anyone went to the balcony, and advance the round marker. So now it's round 2. I do have to move Pompadour's Patience Cube over one space and get the 6 coins, and I'm going to stick the Serpent into my roughing area. This round, the guild get to go first, and they are going to go to the balcony. Now, thankfully, this is still the level 1 card, so they're not going to claim any public awards just yet. Now, looking at both of the instruments on my workbench, I might be in a unique position here where I can actually rough both of these. Because I'm one step up on the craft track, I can rough 2 things at once. I already have 3 wood, and the 2 spaces on the board would give me the remaining wood and animal pieces that I think I need. That's 2 wood from the repair section and 3 animal from the perform section. I'm not intending to perform anything here, so I'm just going to use my number 1 worker. And for their second action, it's off to the guild they go for an instrument, and that's okay with me because I've already got 2 instruments I want to build. I am going to use my number 5 worker at the repair section because that's going to give me extra space up on the craft track, which will permanently add 1 to any roughing or finishing actions I take. Finally, when the guild take their roughing and finishing action, they do it in one go. So it looks like Chopin's going to finally get his double bass. And my number 3 worker is going on my workbench, and because it's a 3, I'm going to get 2 inspiration tokens. The guild's actions are actually already in the right priority order. So we're going to action the balcony first, we'll leave the star token behind, and we'll return the number 2 worker to the board. The first thing I'm going to do is pick up my number 1 worker and 3 animal pieces. At the top of the guild's instrument and patron cards, you'll see this icon that says they can't have more than 2 at any one time. And so if you have to action this card and they have 2 or more, simply discard it and put the worker on top of the workbench space instead. For me, a simple turn, I'm just going to retrieve my worker, pick up my 2 wood, and move up 1 space on the craft track. If the guild only had 1 worker here, they would prioritize the one that is the primary requirement for their patron. But as they actually have 2 workers here, they're going to go ahead and build both of them. The guild doesn't have to pay any costs, so we just go ahead and put their instrument markers in the orchestra for the harpsichord and the double bass. And they're also picking up 14 points for these 2. To make things worse, these 2 complete both requirements for Chopin. So that means 1 space on the reputation track and 5 more points. This might already be too much for me to come back from. Now the time has finally come for me to pick up my number 3 worker, pick up 2 inspiration tokens, and spend 3 animal and 5 wood to rough these 2 instruments. I'm going to have to make sure I finish one of these instruments next turn before Pompadour's patience runs out. Now we can do the end of round solo updates to the priorities and action cards. And all other end of round admin. And for this round, we get an extra worker. Moving Pompadour's patience cube along once, I get 4 coins this round. And if I don't satisfy one of her requirements, she's going to be leaving. A perfect action for the guild, as they are currently out of patrons. They are off to the salon for their first worker. I'm also going to go to the salon with my strongest worker to make sure I get first choice of the patrons. The guild's next choice for action will be their roughing and finishing action, and if they don't pick up an instruments card before then, they'll draw one as part of that action. Looking ahead, I need some new instruments, so I'm going to send a worker over here. The guild are going to go and repair something again. And I want to get some money, so I'm going to go over to the perform action. As we all have extra workers now, there's a 4th action in line, so the guild are going to also come and perform, while I want to stick my final worker on my workbench so I can finish one of these instruments. Let's quickly rearrange the guild's action cards. And so their highest priority is going to be the perform card, and note they're at +3 in terms of their priority track here. That +3 means they would have beat my 2 anyway, but they're coming here with a strength 7 as it is. And when we work out the strength of their performance, we're adding another 7 from their action card. There's a Baroque and classical piece on the perform section of the main board, and so comparing to the guild's guild card, we'll see they want to take the Baroque card as a priority. And comparing to that card itself and the strength of the action, they're going in with a strength 14 in total, which puts them safely in that middle section, 2 points. They also get to place a token in the orchestra, and they're going to take the only remaining first chair space left. Now I get to resolve my action. I'm not expecting great results here. I just want some cash so I can go to the market later. I'm going to roll the 2 dice. I can add that to the 2 strength of my worker, and if I wanted to, I could add inspiration tokens if it's worth me getting higher up the card. Even if I added my inspiration tokens here though, it's only going to be worth the 5 coins, so I'll just leave it at that. Now I want to resolve the salon, but I see that the guild is at +2 and we're both competing for priority here. So, let's see. Their 1 becomes a 3, and thankfully I still get to choose first. It's not ideal because there are no stringed instruments out right now, but I'm going to take Hayden because he's the cheapest one and I need the cash to go to the market with later. Because I used a strength 5 worker, I can actually reset the patience cube on Pompadour and take some cash. And I'm going to stick Hayden in the middle here to pick up a metal cube, as that's the most valuable thing out there. Resolving the guild's action, they are going to continue to favour Baroque patrons. The guild are next going to resolve their repair action, and as this is a level 2 card, they're able to look through the deck to find a card that matches their patron. They're going to tuck this card behind Vivaldi and claim the 3 points. Now note, if this was a 4-point card, they wouldn't have been able to complete it, as their action card isn't a high enough level. For my action, I'm going to go to the market and spend all the coins I've amassed over the last few goes. I'm going to buy enough resources to make sure that I can finish the instruments I've got on my workbench. I'm right at capacity here as I can't have more than 9. As I mentioned earlier, when the guild takes this action but has no instruments to finish, they will instead draw a card, and in this instance they're going to draw a wind instrument that matches their patron. Luckily for them, there's a trumpet in the row. Next, I'm going to finish this hurdy-gurdy, as I desperately need some points on the board and a space in the orchestra. I get to spend 1 less cube here because I'm sending a number 3 worker, which gets modified to 4 with my bonus from the craft track. I get to claim this first chair, which grants me 1 cube of my choice, an inspiration token, and 1 coin. That's now 2 of Pompadour's requirements satisfied. The guild have taken all their actions, so I can just resolve my final worker. And I'm going to go over to the guild and take the cheapest instrument I can get, as although this doesn't help me with any of my patrons, it does give me 9 points if I complete it. Now it's time for more end of round cleanup. Now that we're halfway through the game, between rounds 3 and 4, we remove any A patron cards from the deck. And so we're working with the B, slightly stronger patron cards. At the start of this round, I'm going to stick my 40 piano on my workbench, and I'm also going to gain 6 coins from Pompadour as well as 1 wood from Hayden. The guild continues to go first in this round, and once again they are going to go and repair something. I'm expecting to complete Pompadour this turn, so I'm going to go to the salon to pick up another patron, hopefully Schumann, as they will want the keys and percussion instrument I've got waiting. The guild's going to finish off that trumpet, which means they're going to score for that and for Vivaldi this turn. I think it's about time I got in on this repair action, as I need to start getting some tokens in the orchestra. The guild are going to compete with me for a patron, so I'm hoping they don't beat me to Schumann. And I need some stringed instruments for Hayden, so it's time for me to go to the guild. And the guild are going to perform for their final action. And finally, I'm going to finish my serpent. Rearranging their action cards into priority order, the guild are going to perform first. They've already met Vivaldi's secondary requirement, so we're going to use their guild card to prioritise whether they want to perform a classical or romantic piece, and they are going to choose the classical piece. The guild level 3 performance card adds 9 to the value they go into this area with, so they're actually going to perform this with a strength 12, granting them 2 points and a performance token in the orchestra. More bad news for me, as that's another first chair taken. But never mind, because here comes my big move. I'm going to finish off the serpent, which is in turn going to grant me 7 points, and also complete Pompadour for another 5 points. As well as the points, I get to claim a first chair space in another rare instrument section, also gaining me an inspiration token, a coin, and for the first time in the game, an apprentice token. As I've completed all of Pompadour's requirements, as well as the 5 points, I'm getting 1 space up on the reputation track, which actually gets me another apprentice to work with. I can now flip Pompadour's card and place it behind my workbench, meaning that at the start of every round I'm now getting a wood and an animal cube. The guild are then going to resolve the salon, so this is where I find out whether I've got Schumann or not. Their 3 is only modified to a 4, so I do get to choose first, and Schumann is going in the left space on my workbench, so I'm going to get another 4 credits. The guild are then going to choose the classical patron over the romantic patron and stick them on their workbench. I'm then going to choose to resolve the repair section, and I've got a 3 here to their 2. Now their 2 isn't modified at all, so actually I'm going to get to choose first. So I'm going to choose the tier 1 instrument as it's free to pick up, and I could do with a couple of points. I can afford to pay the cost. I gain 4 points, and I actually get to claim a first chair space in the orchestra. In doing so, I also get 2 more inspiration tokens and 1 coin. Now, lucky for the guild, the other card matches their new patron, so they're going to complete that and pick up 3 points. And the guild are going to build that trumpet, which is 5 points for that and 5 points for completing Vivaldi's requirements. With my final action, I'm going to head over to the guild and pick up the cheap stringed instruments because that's going to help me complete Hayden's requirements. More end of round cleanup now, but this time you'll notice they used their number 4 worker on their workbench action, which is at level 3. So they are going to go up 1 space on the AI goals track on the side. So that's even more points for them. Great. Between rounds 4 and 5, we also get our final workers. Now for round 5, I have 2 patrons on the go again, and I would get another apprentice here from Schumann, but I've already got 2. And for Hayden, I'm getting another block of wood. This flame icon also means at the start of each round, I'm going to get an animal cube and a wooden cube from Pompadour. The guilds are going to go to the balcony, which means that they are going to take a public goal space away from me. I'm going to go to the guild to try and pick up that Baroque guitar. It's a rare instrument, and it'll guarantee me a first chair space in the orchestra. However, it looks like there's competition because the guild are going to go there too. Now I'm going to send a worker to perform, and although I don't want to perform all these Baroque pieces, I'm going to look through the deck later to try and fill the last remaining first chair space in the orchestra. And right on cue, the guild are going to follow me there too. With my next couple of workers, I'm going to try and rough and finish this Baroque guitar. And would you look at that, the guild is going to do the same for theirs. The workers I sent to my workbench actions are actually at +1, so this 3 is actually going to get me a 1 cube discount. Now we're into the last couple of rounds and have an extra worker. The guild get to play a 5th action card, and they're going to go and repair again. I'm going to go there too, but I just want the wood to help me build my instruments. Now we rearrange these in priority order again. Now, once again, the guild has already got 2 instruments, so they're not going to take another one. Instead, they're going to discard this card and place the worker on their workbench action instead. Which I suppose is good news for me, because now I get free choice of the market. Now I'm going to resolve the perform action, and their 1 worker here is modified +1 to a 2, so I still get to go first. Now, I don't want one of these Baroque performances, I want a classical piece so that I can satisfy Haydn's requirement. So I'm going to spend 10 coins and discard an apprentice out of the game to take this classical card from the top of the deck. That's a pretty appalling roll, so I'm going to have to add these 4 inspiration tokens to make sure I get to that second tier on the card. It only gets me 1 point, but it does get me that final first chair space in the front row. And I get to tuck the card under Hayden and reset his patience. The guild are also going to search for a classical piece in the deck, and they can tuck that under their patron. With the level 2 balcony card, this icon in the middle here that shows the bottom arrow in the middle of an awards icon means that they are now going to take the lower of an available public goal. We can figure out which one by looking at the guild card, whether it's the left one, the middle one, or the right one. In this instance, they're going to take the left one first. I'm going to spend my turn at the market, buying everything I need for these instruments. On their turn, the guild are going to action the repair section of the board, where we both have workers. Now, their patron only needed primary requirements, so what they're going to do is just follow their guild card, and they're going to choose a keys and percussion instrument. I'm not fussed, I'm just going to top up my supply with 2 wooden pieces here. As there are no first chair spaces left in the orchestra, they are just going to pick the space in this row where there are fewer tokens, and then here are my 2 wooden pieces. I'm then going to take my roughing action and move this torbo over to the finishing section. Then the guild are going to take their roughing and finishing action, and they've got 2 workers here, so they can do both their instruments. This is going to be a lot of points, and thankfully, neither of them meet their patron's primary requirement. This 1 step moves them all the way over to 63 points, and I'm thinking I might not even get that many. And both of these instruments are going to grant them the first chair spaces, so that's more points waiting for them at the end of the game as well. Now I get to finish my instrument, and even though I've got a 3 worker here, this is modified to a 4, which means I get to spend 1 fewer resource. And this thankfully gets me another first chair space for a rare instrument. And I definitely need the points now. Now that I have 3 instrument markers in the orchestra in the rare instrument section, I should be able to get some points from one of the public goals. But in doing so, I have now also completed all of Haydn's requirements. So I'm going to get 4 points for this, and I'm going to get to move 1 more space up on the reputation track. Tucking Haydn's card behind my player board means I also now get to buy wood from the market at 1 coin less, although it's a bit late in the game for this benefit. The 3 cards I've drawn from the deck to choose from are 2 lutes and a horn. Now, I say, I don't think I'm going to be able to build either of these, but I'm going to take the lute because it's the cheapest one to build. And now it's time for our final bit of end of round cleanup before we head into round 6. you all know how this is going now. So the guild are going to perform, and you'll have noticed that in the cleanup at the end of the last round, they picked up a handle and an instrument by getting their cube to the end of those tracks in their priority track. And I'm going to go to the repair section again for some wood to help me complete some instruments. And the guild are going to go to the balcony. Now, I also want to go to the balcony because I want to claim that rare instruments award. The guild are going to pick up an instrument, and this could be really bad news if they manage to complete both of these patrons this turn. I'm going to go stick a worker on my workbench so I can get some instruments made, and then they are also going to go and go to the repair section to follow me there. I'm sticking a worker on my finishing action, and you'll notice both of these workers are giving me a 1 cube discount when I actually take them. And there we have it. They're going to build one of their instruments. Now, thankfully, they're only going to take this action once, so they're only going to be able to complete 1 patron. And I'm going to send my final strongest worker, along with an apprentice, to the perform action to see what I can pick up here at the end of the game. After rearranging the guild's action cards in priority order, it looks like they're going to go to the guild first to pick up an instrument, which is fine, they still need one. I'm going to resolve the balcony now just to see what happens there. And the guild get to go first because they put their number 5 worker there. Never mind. According to their guild card, they are going to take the highest slot now on the rightmost public award, which is great because if it was the left one, I would be stuck. I'm going to take this action, and because I have 3 rare instrument tokens in the orchestra, I get 9 points out of it. That leaves me only 19 points behind. Now the guild are going to resolve the repair workers. They are going to go first because I've only sent my number 1 here, and they're going to be looking for a stringed instrument for Handel. Now, he can look through the deck until he finds one that he wants. Here he's found a 2-point card, which admittedly could be a lot worse for me, so I'll take the 2, I suppose. I'm going to tuck that behind Handel, and it probably means he's going to be completing all of the requirements here before the end of the game. I'm just going to take the 2 wood for my worker, and let's move on. And I'm immediately going to spend that wood, and in fact every other resource I have, to move this piano to my finishing bench. The guild are going to resolve the perform action, and you'll see that they are not adding anything to the value of their worker here. So they're coming here with a 3, and I'm coming here with a 6. So I get to pick first. Now, I want to take the cheaper of the options here. I need to go to the market later, so I'm going to save my money for that. Let's hope I get a better roll this time. Oh, I guess not. Because I've used a 4 or higher worker here, I did go up on the track, so I do get 1 reroll. And there you go, thankfully I get 1 extra point out of that. I'm going to spend 2 inspiration tokens to make sure I get up to the highest level on this performance and pick up 2 points as well as a performance token to place in the orchestra. Unfortunately, it's not enough for me to take a first chair, but I do get 2 coins as compensation anyway. And I'm finally at the 50 plus range on the scoreboard. Resolving the guild's performance, they get +9 to their 3, so they're going to perform this one at the highest level, pick up 1 point and a space in the orchestra. Before my last action, I'm going to go to the marketplace and I'm going to spend get as much money as I can, and I want to use inspiration tokens for discounts and buy all the materials I need to finish off my piano. And for their final action, the guild are going to take this worker off of the workbench here. They're going to rough and finish this oboe, which in turn is going to give them 5 points. And not to mention, it's going to complete all of Handel's requirements. They do get to put another instrument token in the orchestra, and they're going to be stealing a first chair for this as well. And like I say, because this is Handel's last requirement, that's another 4 points, pushing them up to 79 now. And for my final action, I'm going to finish this piano. I get a 1 cube discount because this 3 is effectively a 4. And that is now going to give me 9 points. I desperately need those. And I get to put an instrument token in the orchestra, and I also get to steal a first chair from the guild at the same time. This completes human, so I get a few more points for that too, and another space along the reputation track, but sadly I'm still a long way behind guild as it stands. At the end of the game, all players would score half the points for any instruments left on their finishing bench, and the same is going to go for the AI here. And they're also going to score for their AI scoring track at the side of the workbench. All players score for the number of first chair tokens they have in the orchestra, and in this one, the guild are beating me 8 to 7, so that's 18 points to 13. I have 2 private scoring cards. I'm going to get 6 points for having 3 stringed first chair instruments, but only 1 point for the classical performance I've given. My 13 points from the orchestra taking me to 83, but the guild have a rather humbling 103, so that is me beat.